Hi friends, Amy here. Today I want to tell you a couple little stories to talk about ritual. Ritual is really important to me personally, to our family, and to everything we do at Passings. So whether I'm working with someone one-on-one or with a big group, I always try to use ritual. And that's because ritual touches us in a place that goes beyond our minds. It includes our bodies, our emotions, and it connects us with what's important to us. It connects us with other people, both living and past. And that word ritual is kind of scary to people. So that's why I chose these two stories to illustrate that ritual is something you can create. Yes, you can do a ritual that has been in your family or in your spiritual tradition for thousands of years, and you can follow very prescribed steps. That's a beautiful thing. And you can make up your own ritual. And for those of you who are experiencing loss or any other kind of transition, it might be really appropriate for you to create your own ritual because maybe the rituals you've done throughout your life no longer are important to you. Maybe they lack meaning. You might come back to them, but for now, maybe what's appropriate is for you to create something new. So these two stories I'm going to tell you about both have to do with Advent. It's a season we're coming into. So that is the very beginning of the liturgical year in Christianity. You don't need to know that at all because what it's really about is about the darkness and the waiting and the potency of winter. So whether you're Christian or not, whether you're in the northern hemisphere and winter starts in December-ish or southern hemisphere and it starts in June-ish, all of us experience times of winter. That is times when things are quiet, when we're invited to pull into ourselves and to wait and to prepare. This season has been so important to me always since I was a little girl. And when I had kids, I knew I wanted to celebrate it with them. Our family celebrates a lot of holidays at this time of year. We celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, winter solstice, and the New Year. But Advent comes before all of that. And when my kids were little, I wanted to really share with them the sense of waiting and preparation. So when they were very young, I think my daughter was 1, my son was 4, my mom bought us a beautiful Advent calendar box. And it's filled with little drawers, and each one has a number on it, numbering 1 through 24. So for the first 24 days of December. And traditionally, a lot of people will put tiny gifts or chocolates in those boxes. But when my children were little, what I did was I put a word in each box for every day. And they were home with me and we had a lot of time. So we used these words every single day to guide our activities together. And each of those words I carefully decided upon as something I wanted them to learn about during that season. So words like light were one, darkness, angel, baby, miracle. Words that were celebrated in each of these traditions that we call ours. So when they were young, they would rush first thing in the morning to the Advent box and open the drawer to find out the word before they could even read it themselves. And sometimes they would fight against who got to open it, as young children do. And I first had to read it to them, and then as they were growing readers, they read it to themselves. We would spend the whole day really talking about what that particular word meant. We might have a craft that related to it or bake something special. Maybe there was a movie we watched. This was a way that we filled our days with meaning during the depths of winter. It is still my favorite thing to do every year. My kids are now 20 and 17. They have long since given up running for anything first thing in the morning and arguing over things to be read. But we still talk, if they're around, we still talk about what words are up that day. And my husband, who did not celebrate Advent growing up, loves this tradition too. It's a tradition, though, that I consciously created for my children, but every bit as much for myself, so that I could guide my reflections. I could guide my work with quiet, with depth, with contemplation during this month of December when the world is all outward focused and lights and lovely joyous things. I needed something for me to also remind me to come back home. And over the years, this ritual has changed because the words that I choose sometimes change. Light and baby and miracle and darkness always will be there. But several years ago, my husband used to work with youth experiencing homelessness. So I pulled in words that had a lot more to do with that aspect of this season of waiting, of longing. So home was a word there. Lonely became a word. And in the past couple years, this is 2019 when I'm recording, the past couple years, words that have to do with refugees and immigration have also crept into my Advent study because they're in my awareness. And it's a way of updating a ritual so that it's always potent for me. This is an example of a really elaborate thing. You don't need to do anything like that. This is just a story I tell you to give you permission to say, you get to create whatever you want. And as long as you are doing it intentionally, it's a ritual. Second story is about a ritual that I didn't even know was a ritual. When my children were 6 and 9, their father, whom I was married to at the time, my first husband, and I decided to take them to Disney World for Christmas. He had just come back from an overseas deployment, and Disney was offering these great deals for service members coming back from deployment, and we were so excited to get to take them to the parks. We sat them down and told them, hey, guess what? For Christmas, we're going to go to Disney. And we thought they would be so excited. My son, who was 9, was excited. My daughter's face, however, just fell as soon as she heard these words, and she started crying. And I said, what's the matter? Why don't you want to go to Disney? She said, I want to go. I don't want to miss Christmas. And we assured her that we would still have Christmas there and that things would be the same. We would still do our caroling. We would still read our stories. Santa would visit. And she kept crying. And finally, she said to me, but what about the trail? And I said, what trail? And she said, the kisses. So my son's first Christmas, years before that, I was filling his little stocking. And what I found was that I had purchased too many things. I had a lot of Hershey's Kisses that would not fit in his stocking. So I decided to make a little trail as he slept Christmas Eve from his bed to his stocking. And we continued to do that every single year. I didn't realize that that had become a ritual for my children until my daughter cried that she might miss having the trail. And when I thought about it, I realized, of course it's a ritual. Rituals are anything we do consciously to mark transitions. Something that happened out of just my poor planning and my overbuying had become a way of marking their beginning of Christmas Day, the end of the Advent season where they had been waiting, and the beginning of Christmas. Because what my kids did with that trail was to gather together to make sure that it was there first thing coming from each of their rooms. They would find a Christmas bowl, and together they would pick up every single kiss. One would hold the bowl, the other would put the kiss in, usually taking turns with both of those tasks as they fought about which one was more fun. What they were doing was prolonging that little liminal space, that fuzzy time between Advent and waiting and the time of celebration of Christmas Day. It's a brilliant, brilliant ritual that I didn't even know we were doing. Again, they're 20 and 17, and they still find a trail outside their door every single time we celebrate Christmas, every single year. They still gather the kisses together. They still slow down as they get closer and closer to their stockings and the Christmas tree. This ritual began, again, with me just making a mistake. You can do anything as a ritual. You can choose to do something intentionally to mark the beginning and end of your day, of the season, of a life. We're going to spend a lot of time in the coming weeks, so you'll find videos, more and more videos here about ritual. And they're just invitations and suggestions for you to include ritual if it feels appropriate. Thanks so much. Take care. Happy ritual making.